This podcast is sponsored by St. Francis Regional Medical Center in Shakopee. St. Francis is committed to caring for our community. As navigating the COVID-19 pandemic becomes our new normal, St. Francis remains open for emergency, urgent, and elective care. Learn more about the hospital's enhanced safety measures at stfrancis-shakopee.com/safecare. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the 10th episode of the Shakopee Chamber Podcast. My name is Angie Whitcomb. I am the president of the Shakopee Chamber of Commerce and pleased to be here with you today. I want to thank our podcast sponsor, St. Francis Regional Medical Center, for believing in us and being such great members of the Chamber for many, many years. We started this podcast as a way to keep our members informed in a time when it was not really encouraged to gather in person and have these conversations. And we're thankful that for the last 10 weeks, our guests have been willing to join us and help keep Shakopee and the Shakopee Chamber members informed. You can find this podcast on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, or for those of you like me who like to keep it simple, just say, "Hey Alexa, play the Shakopee Chamber Podcast," and you'll hear the latest episode. Today, I'm really excited to introduce our guest to talk all things Shakopee and development. We have with us this morning Mr. Michael Kerski, who is the Director of Planning and Development for the City of Shakopee since he arrived in 2016. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Angie.
We're glad that you could join us today. Lots to talk about Shakopee. I mean, that seems to be the message for the last 10 plus years. Shakopee is really growing. Shakopee is really growing. It doesn't seem to slow down. Now, I want to talk about, I say this every week that we didn't want this podcast to be all COVID all the time, but there's nothing it hasn't touched. And certainly it has shut down many businesses, many industries, slowed them down. Yet our list of development projects here in Shakopee seems to keep growing. I was on the city website last night, and currently we have over a dozen development projects in progress. I mean, like dirt moving, buildings going up, housing, industrial, retail. Talk to us about some of those projects and the ones that we can expect to see completed soonest.
So I think, Angie, the good news is that during this whole COVID environment, the planning and development and building staff have been here. People are like, "Oh, you working from home?" I'm like, "No, we never left." So our staff's been out inspecting projects every day, going to people's homes, basically putting themselves at risk because at the end of the day, people are home and they're finding all sorts of things wrong with their homes. So, we're right now on path for a record number of building permits this year. Last year was our record year and we're on path to pass that this year.
Oh my gosh.
So lots of projects right now. KEB America, which is their corporate headquarters here in Shakopee for North America, is finishing up their building. They're going to add right out of the box, I think, about 35 jobs. So they're
fantastic.
A really exciting company based out of Germany, but their U.S. headquarters is right here in Shakopee. Cherney Industries, which is currently in Edina, is quickly building their building. Anyone who drives in the West End will see that they're probably half the building's already up in the air.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yep, they're scheduled to occupy probably first part of April.
Wow.
So that's 150 jobs coming to Shakopee, plus another 50 over the next few years. So really exciting company. They're a one-of-a-kind company in the world. They make a very special product. And so they chose Shakopee out of all the other cities. So that's exciting for us. And then on the apartment side, Triple Crown at Canterbury is ramping up actually pretty quickly. They have 300 plus units that are online right now. And hopefully next year they'll start their next 300.
Yeah, and I don't know if any of our listeners have had a chance to go out there and see that property, but it is amazing. The amenities in that apartment complex are...
It's stunning. I mean, their clubhouse rivals probably any private club in the Twin Cities.
Oh, absolutely. I was trying to talk my husband into getting me an apartment for when I have to commute down here during the week. He's not quite on board with that yet. So.
And then at Canterbury, Greystone's right now grading their site out for their new corporate headquarters. So they're a longtime Shakopee business that's going to be building their headquarters right in the corner. And then hopefully we'll see some other development there. And then probably sometime this month, Pulte and Zhivago are going to submit for a luxury townhome and cooperative project at Canterbury. So that'll
Wow.
start construction next year.
Very exciting. It's, there's always been that long term, oh, Shakopee's so far away, or Shakopee's just a sleepy little town, and that could not be farther from the truth. And as you listen to some of these projects and the caliber and the quality and the high end of them, it's very exciting. Lots of jobs. Those employees are going to need somewhere to live, and it sounds like everybody's on board with that. I always joke that we're like New York. We have our boroughs. We have 6 boroughs of Shakopee. There's Southbridge, Marshall Veerling, of course, our beautiful downtown, our industrial park, Deans Lake, and West End. And there's projects going on in all of those areas right now, Michael. At what point are we going to max out? And then what?
So I don't think we ever really max out from a development standpoint, because there's always redevelopment. If you look at downtown right now, where the old city hall was, Enclave's got a $15 million project under construction. And then we should see this week or next week the demolition on the River Bluff site, and that'll be a 175 unit project with a new to market restaurant and a health club facility. So I think you're going to see more redevelopment occur in the city, just because land has become more about utilities infrastructure they already. But the city council last night approved, we have an orderly annexation agreement right now with the Jackson Township. So we are going to take 250 acres of the township in over the next year.
Okay.
Engineering is working right now on a sewer project out there, and Shakopee Public Utilities is working on a new water tower that will supply water for that area. So that's really more of our business employment growth area. And then Windermere, they still have a lot of sections left, but I think they're setting records in home sales right now. So we're likely to see another 40 acres of that come in September.
Did you say 48 acres?
40 acres, yep.
Wow, that's incredible. So one of the big projects that's in process right now is the Innovation Center. And I know there's been letters of support written by a lot of businesses here in town, and a lot of talk about this project. Tell our listeners exactly what this will be and what it will mean for Shakopee.
Sure, that's a project that's been kind of 10 years in the making that everyone's been talking about. So all good things take time, but it's one of the few projects I've worked on that had support from both senators and our local congressmen and our state representatives, and a lot of local businesses, including the chamber. But that would be a outpost for learning for high school students that want to get a college taste, want to have an idea for a business. There would be support from the Small Business Development Center. And then we have a letter of intent with Minnesota State University at Mankato that they could actually hold courses here, and they would actually potentially move some of their programming down to Shakopee. And then for companies that are looking for specialized training, that facility will have 2-story rooms where you could have a crane and bring in equipment, so people could actually train in the equipment before you go into the building.
Wow.
And then small businesses, there is a technology village right now in Prior Lake that's kind of constrained. They potentially could move to Shakopee. So it'd be kind of that beacon of entrepreneurship, education, innovation right here in the city.
It makes perfect sense when you think of the different industries and headquarters. I mean, you've mentioned a few that are coming to town, but we have plenty that have been here for decades. And right in the heart of downtown is Rare Malting, probably one of our oldest companies in town, and they have their innovation and their growth over the last 10 years has been nothing short of phenomenal.
No, and that location is a perfect fit because that's kind of where our Malting has their innovation center down the street, where I think most people don't realize most of the large and small brewers no longer do their own scientific research. And so Rare Malting's got a lot of PhDs working in a really specialized building, coming up with new beer formulas and actually brewing beer for some of the larger and smaller brewers around the world, and making sure those formulas work before they go into production. So that's a pretty innovative thing. And I think we have an opportunity to create kind of an innovation district in that area.
I love that. I tell everyone, when we have people over, or people are asking here at the chamber, where do I go for a good beer? Well, all good beer starts in Shakopee.
Yeah.
So now the city has spent a lot of time and effort also in planning for our park system, our trails, and really, really utilizing and highlighting not only our community's history, but the riverfront. And you've talked about a couple of development projects like that apartment building that's going up really to capitalize on that. But it's not just brick and mortar. It's also, the quality of life programming that your department's working on. Tell us about some of those big projects.
So I think we've all learned, you mentioned COVID coming into this, that if you go out anytime during the day, we had one of our consultants up here, and there were literally dozens of people out walking their dogs or just walking. People are working from home right now. And so it's really critical to have those amenities that people can use because they're home all day.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're doing is something that's really not been done a lot in the past. We're doing a huge outreach. So we actually have been holding meetings, public meetings in the parks. We had one the other night. We had about 60 people come out and talk about what they liked and didn't like about their park. And it's really interesting to see something I never really thought about, but the parks really are becoming multi-generational. So you'll have everyone from the mom with the little kids on that can play in a playground to kids playing basketball to adults that want to play pickleball. So really, how do we figure out how to maximize the use of our parks all day so they're not just a one-trick pony?
Yeah.
We're also looking at some bigger areas. The state's funding a study right now in a cultural corridor that runs along the riverfront. I don't think people realize in Shakopee we have a tremendous amount of history. I mean, our name is an Indian name that goes back to the Dakota founders.
Mm-hmm.
The original Shakopee village was on the right by where your office is,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that's still there. I mean, we've done archaeological work, so there's a long history story to tell. And so the state's funding that preliminary study in cooperation with the county and the Historical Society and Three Rivers Park District. And it's great to see everyone kind of working together.
Yeah. Well, that's what it takes to get anything done, right? It's all about collaboration. So you mentioned something, Michael, about, everybody's working from home because of COVID. And normally on a normal day, non-COVID, if we can remember back that far, about 50% of our residents commute out of Shakopee to go to work every day, whether they're heading to, downtown or to St. Paul. But with everybody working from home and large corporations saying that it's working and that may become kind of the new normal, I have kind of a two-pronged question here for you. As far as those workers and being home, do you see that as an opportunity or potentially some changes in what development does happen in terms of like shared office space? I mean, because I know for me, when I'm working from home and John's working from home and Grace is doing school from home, sometimes this mama just needs to go back to the office. So
Plus, you
with
need your own internet.
exactly, right. It's a good time to be in that business, I guess. But do you anticipate opportunities for Shakopee or development for Shakopee that would create sort of those co-working spaces or shared office space?
So the Innovation Center, one of the components of that would be a co-working space.
Mm-hmm.
So to allow people to basically come in and have a meeting, they have designed a number of shared conference rooms. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have we typically find, particularly with entrepreneurs, if they have a funder coming in or an angel investor or something, they don't want to be at their house, so they can actually go and reserve that space and have a meeting there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the other thing, that facility, because that facility was designed during COVID, it's completely got video capabilities. So there's a commercial kitchen proposed in there that would have complete video capabilities. So a chef could come in and teach a cooking course and how you prepare recipes, and all of that would be able to stream live. And then all the classrooms have the potential to be able to do live streaming. So I think that was one of the big changes we made in the programming, is really to make the building really robust for streaming.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. The cooking show opportunity. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of cooking. I'm out of recipes. I just want somebody else to do it for me or to teach me something new. Now, as we talk about cooking in restaurants, so you hear a lot of restaurants closing or a lot of restaurants leaving these areas that, where all the big office buildings were and nobody's downtown anymore. So is there an opportunity, or what opportunity do you see as a professional in your industry for Shakopee and other suburbs to, I don't want to say benefit from that because that sounds callous, but to, we don't want these good restaurants to go away, but how do we attract them? Is there a plan for that?
So, I mean, I think the city council in the downtown made a pretty big move to preserve what we had already by allowing the big tent to go up downtown. And that's really helped those restaurants make it kind of through this time period.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we'll see with newer projects like Canterbury Commons, that, they're out marketing that to potential restaurants and are getting some activity. So that being kind of a new entertainment district with horse racing and all the other events they do there in the card room, there's some potential there with, if you look at all the housing that's going to be there, where are those people going to go to eat?
Yeah.
So I think there's a kind of a confluence of different things coming together that will benefit all of the suburban communities in the long run.
That's great. When I think about that project in particular, that is probably one of the most visible intersections on any freeway in Minnesota. And what that's going to be, it's already great with the track, but to see that grow from even where it's been 10 years ago to where it's going to be 5, 6 years from now is going to be incredible. I want to compliment the city over the years. I mean, it started, I think, pretty much spearheaded by you and Administrator Reynolds. We've made great strides in creating a user-friendly environment for developers and businesses looking to locate here in Shakopee. Um, and that hasn't always been the case. You identified a problem and you moved to solve it. But what can a developer who might be listening to this, or a business who's thinking, I'd never thought about Shakopee, but maybe I'll go look at that. What can they expect when they start working with us?
So, we have a pretty customer service oriented staff here. So Jen Burrington, who's our economic development specialist, works pretty much hand in hand with small businesses and big businesses to try and help them through not only our process, but potentially state licensing or other permits they may need. But we have a front counter staff that actually they're permit coordinators. So they're in the first meeting when you have an idea all the way until you get your final CO, and they're kind of a one-stop shop point of contact. And then on the bigger project, we assign a case manager. So we have senior planners that take on those projects, kind of cradle to grave. And so they're there as the issues arise and to solve problems. And I think that's been a big change. The other big change has been our ability to switch 100% to electronic. We did that 2 years ago. And so that was another reason why I've talked to a lot of cities right now that are way behind on permits, months behind on permits. We never skipped a beat because we were able to go 100% mobile with our staff and the inspectors because we're 100% electronic. No paper crosses the paths here.
I love that.
And most cities just don't have that capability. And we've been working on it for years. So you can pay online, you can submit online, you can get your reviews online, you can get your permit online. And so that's been a real help, I think, to both the customers, but also the contractors because they haven't had to come here.
Yeah, well, and if you think about how busy their days are, they're moving forward on the projects and they're managing crews. They don't have time to be standing at a customer service counter or on hold, trying to figure out who the next person is they talk to. So huge, here at the chamber, we always used to get the calls of people who were really frustrated. Like, I just got this bill and I didn't know this was coming, or who do I talk to? I can't get a hold of anybody. Those calls don't come to the chamber anymore. And so huge hats off to the city for really making this a great place to do business. All right.
No, I mean, and the city council just invested about another $200,000 or $300,000. So we were on one kind of electronic platform. We're switching to another that'll be more robust. That'll allow our inspectors to be able to send you an email with your permit and your stuff right from the field. So it's going to be pretty robust, and we'll launch that probably the first of the year. But again, we're trying to always be innovative and trying to be customer service oriented.
Well, I hope there's a ton of developers and businesses looking to relocate and build here in Shakopee that are listening to this right now and realizing there's really nowhere else to look. You should just come here. So, Michael, I appreciate your time. Before we let you go today, we're going to try something new. You are our first guest that we're going to try this with. We're calling it the Fast Five. So I'm going to fire 5 questions at you, and you have to answer them. They're more of a personal nature. Nobody wants to hear about permits anymore, as exciting as they are. But so the first of the first Fast Five is, where'd you go to college?
University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
You're not a Packer fan, are you?
I am indeed.
Oh, that's a shame. We're going to have to edit that out. What was your first job?
I was a preservation planner.
Like your very first job?
Yeah, very first job.
That's your first professional job.
Yes.
You didn't have any weird job in high school?
I was a paper boy. That was my first job.
Excellent. You were doing paper boy when you had to go to door and collect.
That's
And did you have one of those little paper punches to mark the paper? I love that. All right. What's been your best or your most favorite binge show of this COVID era?
I just watched a new series on Netflix about multi-million-dollar mansions in the Hamptons. I watched the entire series.
Dream building.
Yes.
I thought I had finished Netflix, but I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
2 dogs, both rescues.
Awesome. And what has been your best vacation ever?
Actually, I think Mackinac Island, because there's no cars there. It's a really interesting experience. It's like literally stepping back in time.
Very cool. Michael Kerski, thank you for all you do for the city and helping us continue to grow and making it a painless process for those who want to do business here. Thank you to you and your team at the city for the work you do with the chamber and always supporting our crazy ideas like this podcast. And I wish you all the best.
All right. Our pleasure, Angie. Thank you.
Take care, sir.
All right.
This podcast is sponsored by St. Francis Regional Medical Center in Shakopee. Your safety is the top priority at St. Francis, and enhanced safety measures are in place while you're provided with quality care close to home. Learn more about the enhanced safety measures at stfrancis-shakopee.com/safecare.